Director of Power, the state of Pennsylvania's largest multi-faith, multi-race-based organizing movement with over 100 congregations of multiple faith traditions in 10 counties across the state. With me is Amadi Braxton, activist, documentarian, philanthropist, counselor, coach, and consultant. Ms. Braxton, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Each week we come to you on Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. to bring you the organizers, movement and thought leaders, elected officials, and community members who are creating solutions to the issues that impact your life on the local, state, national, and international levels. On the board tonight is engineer extraordinaire Troy Wilmore, who is capably producing and engineering the show.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
We love that, Troy. That's very unique. You know, most people have, like, you know, some introduction, but when you have Liam Neeson doing your introduction for you, that's really cool. That's very nice. Very nice.
Was that Liam Neeson?
That was Liam Neeson. That was from what was the movie that he did some years ago? It was like, it wound up becoming 3 movies. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Troy, what is the movie?
Troy knows the name of the movie.
Taken.
Taken. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. That's from the first one. So yes. So
that's
that was,
when his daughter is.
Yeah, she goes to France. Yeah, no, I don't want to give flashback, you know, because you spent your time in France, so I know you had your journey over there.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, a long time ago. But anyway, so anyway, that's from that. So anyway, Troy, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Hey, listen, family, tonight the phone lines are open. We actually want to be in deep dialogue with all of you. And so we welcome you as our primary guest this evening. To join in the conversation, feel free to call 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. You can also listen online at www.wordradio.com. You can download the WURD app on both the Apple Store and Google Play Store. We're live on Facebook right now, so you can go on Facebook. Do us a favor, right? When you go to the WURD Radio section, this thing that says Amadi Braxton and Bishop Dwayne Royster are live on air right now. You can go ahead and share that out. Just hit that share button down in the corner and let folk know that you are listening to the Solutions on WURD. I was getting ready to say the other show, so be careful. You're listening to Solutions on WURD, and let folk know that you're checking us out and to become part of this conversation with us tonight. And again, you know, we're looking forward to being in conversation with you all. 215-634-8065. All right, Ms. Braxton, what is on your mind today? Oh, I forgot I'm supposed to do this thing. Where my dogs at? Where my dogs at? Rest in peace, rest in power, Earl DMX Simmons. Some of you probably have heard already that DMX, the rapper, it was 50 years old, right around in our generation, our time frame, passed away today. And so prayers out to him and his family. Those that did not know, although he was struggling with addiction, he was also a very active Christian and deep in his faith. And we're just praying for him and his family right now. So thank you, DMX, for the music that you shared, for the raps that you did, and for representing New York City the way that you did. All right, Ms. Braxton, what's on your mind?
Well, I passed my 2-week post-second vaccination date this past Monday.
Oh, you're fully vaccinated.
So I am fully vaccinated, theoretically immune to the virus strain that started this whole thing. We'll see what these other new emerging strains bring. I think there's a positive sense that this vaccine can also protect me from at least one of them, of the other strains, but we'll see.
Which one did you get?
I got Moderna.
Yeah, Moderna. Okay, that's the same thing I'm getting. Okay.
Yeah. So, and, you know, there's a headline today in Billy Penn that more than 25% of all Philadelphia residents have now received at least 1 dose of the vaccine, which is great. We're moving in the right direction. And apparently over 1/3 of the doses are being done at the FEMA site down at the convention center.
Okay.
Which is a very streamlined massive operation there. So, so now I am in, figuring out how do I navigate my vaccinated life? How do I slowly re-enter a world that allows me to be a little bit more social? So far, I have been spending time with people in my family who are also fully vaccinated, meaning that I can be in their house without wearing a mask. I can give hugs. I can receive hugs from people other than the one person that I've been living with for the past year and a half through this whole thing, which is nice to reconnect in that physical way with your loved ones. And I went out to a outdoor restaurant on Monday evening, did outdoor dining downtown on Spring Garden in a what felt like a pretty safe environment. The restaurant had very stringent protocols in terms of the rules. You had to make a reservation because they want to make sure that they have enough space to do proper cleaning of the tables. They cleaned the tables and the chairs. We watched them do that before we sat down. We were safely distanced for more than 6 feet apart from the nearest table to us. We were required to wear masks when we got up from our table to go to the bathroom or use any of the facilities in the restaurant. And of course, the servers wore masks the entire time. And we were only allowed to be there for 90 minutes max.
Yeah, I saw that a lot of restaurants are doing time limits.
But partly it's probably because they want to kind of keep rotating people in so they can make more money because they're trying to make up for a lot of losses over the past year. But, I was nervous about it because it's something that I haven't done yet in over a year. And I was somebody who was steady at restaurants, like probably twice a week, dinner out. So anyway, it's just something that I'm trying to navigate. Of course, my niece who lives with me, who is a young person, she just turned 21 last week. So
happy birthday
to her. Yeah. She has been desperate to socialize, and this is the age where she's of the age where social engagement and testing out who you are in your burgeoning adulthood and all of that kind of interaction is so critical and important. Of course, I just turned 50, so I'm happy to just, sit on my couch and watch Netflix. I'm not in that phase of my life. I'm in the couch phase of my life. But I shouldn't diminish my life in that way. But
no, but I mean, you get older, you don't want to do the same stuff anymore.
Right.
The club scene that's not really happening anymore.
Right, and I've experienced all of that already. I sowed my wild oats, let's put it that way. But she, she is really eager to get out there and be with people and see her friends and go out and do things. And so we are trying to navigate how to do that safely because, of course, she has managed to be vaccinated, but most of the people her age are not yet. So that's a challenge to navigate. So I'm just curious if folks out there listening are navigating those same issues. Are you fully vaccinated? How are you feeling about reapproaching your, quote unquote normal life post-vaccination? How do you navigate with the young people in your life? How to continue to be safe and protect you while you're vaccinated and they may not be? If you're a young person listening, how are you approaching this phase of the pandemic? Also, the other thing is it's spring. So, people are feeling frisky. The weather is nice.
Get outside. Absolutely.
People want to get outside. People want to be wearing less clothing, all that kind of stuff. So that is also a factor too.
Yeah, I'm trying to go fishing tomorrow, so I totally understand. And, there are places that, they're trying to do social distancing and, fishing lakes and stuff like that. So I'm headed down to Maryland to go do that. And I'll be dealing with what you're just talking about. My youngest daughter just got her first shot today, Pfizer. So we will see how this plays out. And, but I'm sure in a minute, she just got a driver's license a little while ago. So she's going to be itching to get out and go. And we will have to try to contain her a little bit until she is until she's ready to go. So until we're more ready and established. In the meantime, my wife was vaccinated a long time ago because she's a nurse. So in the very first wave, when they started doing vaccinations, she was vaccinated. I just got my first shot just a couple of weeks ago. So, still trying to work through that process, and we'll see what happens. I get my
Did
other
you have
shot.
side effects?
I did. I had side effects on the site. So, but it
Care to
wasn't.
describe for people who might still be anticipating getting their
Yeah, I mean, my
shot?
side effects, so first of all, let me just be clear. I am afraid of needles. So some of this might have been exacerbated by the fact that I do not like needles. Yes, I know I'm 6'3.5". Yes, I know how big I am. Yes, I'm aware of all that. I just have a thing about needles. Actually,
So you could have been having anxiety and panic attack
well, I
type
mean, some of
symptoms.
it was anxiety. I'm aware of that. Some of it was I was actually getting affected, and I think because I was already anxious, it just kind of heightened everything. But I did have my gland swelled up in my neck. I did have a reaction on my arm. It got really hot afterwards. I did, feel a little sore, but I was able to breathe. See, the main thing for me is I'm measuring, can I breathe? As long as I can breathe, I'm okay. So if I can take air in, I can take air out, I'm good. I did have a little bit of a problem where my left eye went a little glassy for a little bit, but actually what's interesting, I had all those effects. Most people have effects the next day. I had those effects that day for a couple hours. Next day I woke up, I was perfectly fine, other than the fact that I had a knot on my arm, and that lasted for about 3-4 days, which is actually your body working to encapsulate and hold the vaccine, and eventually it gets absorbed into the body and so forth, and it does its job. So, for me, there was also the fact that my body was saying, yep, foreign invader, we got to do something here about this. So I was like, it was doing its job. So I wasn't, mad. Again, as long as I could breathe, I didn't need emergency support. I didn't even call the EMTs or anybody to let them know that I was having a problem. It was perfectly fine. So.
You mean this was immediately after you got the shot when they sit you and observe you?
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I was fine. My sister was with me. Actually, my twin sister and I went and got our shots together. Part of it was, in case one of us had a problem, the other one was right there. And she kept saying to me, because she said, I got really quiet. And she was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, sure. While my sister, and I'm allowed to talk about her on the radio as my very attractive single sister. So that she was busy flirting with the guy in the truck next to us. And I'm like, why are you doing this? I'm like, stranger danger. Who the guy next to us in the truck next to us began to tell us about how, COVID-19 was really the result of George Bush. I mean, he went through this whole conspiracy theory thing. And I just turned to her later on as we were leaving, and I'm like, you can't talk to strangers. Okay, you cannot talk to strangers. She was like, well, he was taking a picture, and, she was joking with him about it. I said, you're a flirt. And that was a whole other thing. But, but it was fine. So, I got that one in. Like I said, that day I was a little out of sorts. As a matter of fact, I went on the air that night with you later on, and I was feeling the anxiety level come down, and I was actually feeling relieved that I got the first shot in. But I was a little concerned about some of the side effects, but it's okay. It was fine. Next day, woke up, I was energized, I was ready to go, feeling good about it, and haven't had any other effects since then. So it was cool. We were all good.
So that was after the first shot. Okay.
Yeah, that's only the first shot. I haven't had the second shot yet. Now I gotta. So we'll see what happens after the second shot. I'll let everybody know my second shot's on the 23rd. So I'll be on the air again that night, and hopefully, and let you all know. So you might just have a backup plan just in case I'm like, I can't make it. Anyway, we're up on our first break.
Okay.
Listen, the phone lines are open, folks, 215-634-8065. And Amadi put out that question. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Like, how are you going to handle family members getting vaccinated? And what's your thoughts about how we're going to move to reopen? What are your plans to reopen your home, your community, to get back out in the public in a different way? So give us a call. Let us know. 215-634-8065. You're listening to Solutions on Word with Amadi Braxton and Dwayne Royster. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Watch for delays on the Schuylkill Expressway eastbound side between Gulf Mills and Belmont Avenue. Then further eastbound between the Boulevard and the Vine Expressway. Westbound side backs up between the Boulevard and Belmont. 95 northbound seeing volume between the Betsy Ross Bridge and Bridge Street. And we've got delays on the southbound side as well between the Betsy Ross Bridge and Girard Avenue. Vine Expressway is heavy, 76 to 95 the entire stretch on that eastbound side. Boulevard has volume northbound between the Schuylkill and Broad Street. We go to Jersey now for some volume on 295 southbound between Woodcrest Station and 42. And 42 backs up on the southbound side right around Creek Road. Report brought to you by ExpressPros.com. Express Employment Professionals matches people with the right skills with the right jobs from the production floor to the front office. To find the right person for your job, you can't beat Express's incredible local support. Visit ExpressPros.com to find a location near you. And for more traffic info, log on to SIGAlert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You probably heard it before, but one of the best ways to stay safe from COVID is by avoiding crowds. That's better. Also, when you're out in public, make sure you stay 6 feet away from strangers or people you don't live with. It's okay to say, "Can I have some space, please?"
Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, and we can expect much.
If you're gonna have a get-together with friends and family, have it outside. And remember to keep those 6 feet of social distance. And last but not least, wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth with no gaps. They slow the spread of COVID or new forms of the virus called variants. And make sure you get your vaccine when it's your turn. We're all out here trying our best, and it's making a difference. We just gotta keep it up. We can do this.
To learn more about slowing the spread, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
At Bank of America, we believe in the power of collaboration to create jobs and fuel economic opportunity. That's why we're working with local organizations to help people get the skills they need and build a growing pipeline of talent.
I'm Jim Dever, Bank of America Greater Philadelphia Market President. Our partnership with Philadelphia Youth Network is just one way we're taking action to help more members of our community. What would you like the power to do?
Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, Equal Credit Opportunity Lender.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media.
Tune in this and every Saturday at 3 p.m. for the Let's Talk Fire Safety Show with host Adam Thiel, Fire Commissioner, discussing fire and life safety.
You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions on WURD. This is Dwayne Royster along with Amadi Braxton. Hello, WURD family. WURD Radio, in partnership with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, Independence Blue Cross Foundation, Penn Medicine, and LabCorp, have teamed up to launch Get to Know. Get to Know is a new public health campaign to reduce colorectal cancer in the black community. Request your free, easy, at-home colorectal cancer screening test called a FIT kit. The FIT kit is designed to provide early detection of colorectal cancer. The FIT test doesn't require any fasting or colon cleanses, and it can be done in a matter of minutes. Most importantly, you'll learn how to make sure you and your family members can stay well and live a long, healthy life. Go to WURDradio.com and click on the Get to Know banner or call 1-877-422-2030 to learn how you can get your free at-home FIT kit test screening test. So please do that. I actually had a grandmother that died from colorectal cancer, so it's a very important thing to keep an eye on and keep track of. So implore you, get tested, especially, can I just say, shout out to brothers here real quick. You need to do this. You really need to do this. Our sisters too, but especially the brothers out there, because we often do not follow through on getting this checked out, and it actually hits our community in a really hard way. So thank you to Independence Blue Cross Foundation, Penn Medicine, and LabCorp, and to our management here at WURD for teaming up together to do this. This is a really important issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I know we got a caller on the line.
Okay.
We got Calvin from Delaware. Good evening, Calvin. Welcome to Solutions or WURD.
Yes, this show is called Solutions.
Good afternoon, Bishop and Amadi.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Hi, you were talking earlier about about with the vaccines. I've had both shots. My arm was a little sore afterwards. But for me, like somebody was telling me, if you just drink a lot of water, you're flushing it out of your system. And for me, like I like walk every day anyway, so. But like 24 hours, I mean, arm was a little sore, but other than that, I was all right, But I also wanted to say, saying on the news how these white Republican men don't want to take the vaccine, and how it was like an issue the other day, a baseball stadium down in Texas. I mean, all these people, flocked together in the stadium, and nobody had a mask on, so it can be like a super spreader event, But that's just what kind of worries me about that, because then you have people also who've taken the shot and then afterwards don't think they got to wear no mask at all, they're thinking they're like invincible or something, But and then also I think that it may be, that we may be having to take a booster shot. Because particularly these variants and the fact that the virus changes and mutates, so I mean all of these variants. I mean, the vaccines cover all these variants, because it's something, it's something that's it's ongoing, it's just like something out of a sci-fi movie, But I just you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they say that the group that is, like you just said, the group that is least likely to take the vaccine are white male Republicans. And, they're acting like this is about their freedom. It's become politicized and become a cultural issue to take the vaccine or not. And my problem with that is that their unwillingness to do it is going to prolong this whole ordeal for everybody else. Their unwillingness to do it puts everybody else at risk. And now when people are saying, well, certain businesses, like airlines or, hotels or what have you, might require you to show proof of vaccination that has been dubbed the vaccine passport. People are up in arms that that's somehow discriminatory. And aren't we required to show a license, a driver's license? Aren't we required to show proof of insurance? I mean, there are, if people aren't going to comply and allow this thing to keep perpetuating itself and mutating and morphing and continuing to live in our communities and exist in our communities, that it pisses me off, frankly.
Yeah. But they've had some cases where some of these vaccine passports, people they're like counterfeit. Because figure somebody can make $1 off of it. They're going to do it.
Yeah. I think, part of the challenge that we're going to face, first of all, you have a government challenge in Texas. So they've opened everything up 100%. Masks are now optional everywhere in Texas. And that's because they have a governor that's an idiot and as a Trumper. And so that's a real part of the problem that's happening down in Texas. There have been some cities in Texas that have continued to try to protect citizens, like Austin, to which the state government went after them because Austin was still requiring face masks in public and so forth. So I think, we have a bit of a challenge because there are these sort of naysayers that are out there that continue to try to dispel and say that this is not an issue, don't worry about it. Well, they don't worry about it until they have family members or they themselves get very sick. We've seen this in the case of a couple of political officials who wound up getting sick with it in the Congress, and some of them died, and they were like, oh, wow, you need to take this very seriously. But originally, because they were following the lead of their idiot in chief, they were, dismissing it and making it so that it wasn't a really big deal. And so we need to understand that it is a big deal. That you're right. There could be boosters that are required for this. Like I've told people on this show and other places, I plan on masking for a long time before, when I go out in public, even after I've gotten my second vaccination and I'm past the point to which the vaccine will have maxed out in my system, because I don't trust other people in this moment. Can I just be real?
Yeah.
If I don't know you, I don't trust you. I don't know what your deal is and, how you're showing up and what you're wanting to do. So, yeah, I've got a whole problem with this. So I'm like, look, straight up, I don't trust folk. And I'm just going to make sure I keep masking, keep hand sanitizer on me. I usually have hand sanitizer in my pocket with me everywhere I go. And I'm going to continue to try to social distance as much as possible from people so that I don't get sick. And, I don't want to cause anybody else to have a problem.
Yeah, I hear you, Bishop. I mean, I agree, because it's just, having to deal with this thing for like the last year, which has really been kind of crazy anyway, but just still hanging in there,
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Well, hey, we appreciate you giving us a call. Thank you so much, Calvin. And we got Richard from North Philly. Richard, welcome to Solutions on Word. How are you this evening?
My two
Richard?
shots already. Yes. Hello?
There you go. Okay, we hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, you got your two shots already. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I got my 2 shots already. I got my second one 2 weeks ago. I felt a little soreness in my arm, at first, when I first got it. Then, the word, it wore off, the words. And so I'm still masking up, still doing this thing, what they're supposed to do, keeping my distance and all that, Yes. So, anyway, I think that this, people should be able, to get their vaccine because it's going to be made available to everybody, they said, by April 19th. So I hope that young people, should get their vaccine, soon, amen. So that, that we go and like that. But anyway, about the gun violence. Now, the gun violence we have now, Joe Biden, the president, issued an executive order to do something about the gun violence here in the city, at our cities. But the Republicans always bring up this argument about the Second Amendment rights and all that, stuff, and like that, and so, so listen, how do you think that Joe Biden, the president, is going to try to get something done with this, especially with the Republicans, that was always bringing up this thing about gun rights, for people to have guns, especially these here assault rifles that should be banned, personally, So what do you think about that, Bishop?
Yeah. Amada, do you want to go first? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure, I have thoughts. First of all, I just want to say I watched his speech in the Rose Garden where he announced the executive orders, and I just want to say I'm very impressed with Joe Biden. I did not expect myself to be saying that or feeling that, but
yeah, I'm surprised to hear you say that. Yes.
The fact that he is willing, we have a president who is willing to stand up and say the truth, that it's ridiculous that we have the kind of gun violence, the levels of gun violence that we have in this country, that we are a laughing stock and seen as ridiculous by the rest of the world who don't understand how we allow this to happen to our own people. He brought a sense of outrage and anger to the issue that I have not seen politicians fully express in a while. And that's the kind of thing we need in terms of leadership. I think he's doing an excellent job in terms of using the bully pulpit and using his platform as president, where anything he says is going to be carried over all the news channels, and all the news outlets around the country and around the world. It's when you have the Republican Party basically bought and paid for by the NRA, even though that I think 80% of the population, Republicans and Democrats alike, even people who are gun owners, agree to common sense background checks, for example, some of these very basic things. We have to be continuing to wage a political war against the Republican Party. We have to continue to fight to get more of common sense, out of control gun people in office. We have to get people who believe in gun control. We have to get people who believe in banning assault rifles, banning weapons of war from our streets, banning the ease of access for guns to travel across state lines, all of that stuff. We have to just keep being consistent, and we have to let our legislators know that this is something that we deeply care about, because the reason why the pro-gun lobby has gotten into such power is because they have a small group of activists who are very, very vocal, and who have been, storm into action in the appropriate political moments when they need to push something. But we have way more on our side of this issue than they do, and we have to use that power. So I think this is the beginning of a shift that it's going to take a few years to get all this stuff really done, the things that we really need. But I'm feeling a modicum of hopefulness, I dare say, in this moment, that things are going to shift in the right direction. But there's more work to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest piece that came out of all the laws that the executive order, the executive order put in place policies, is probably the $5 billion that's going to go towards community violence intervention efforts. So, and I think the biggest piece of that will be people dreaming up very big, bold plans to address community violence. That's not just interceptors. That's not just about, ratcheting up prosecution, but it's really addressing the underlying issues that impact gun violence, which is hopelessness, which actually has to do with jobs, economic stability, and people who just feel like that this is the only way that they're able to survive, right? And so these wars, these beefs that are happening on the street are oftentimes deeply related to drug interaction as well. So, if people have a job, a full-time job with a good paying job with benefits, and they can actually make more money working, or there's a way to support them, doing that, they're actually going to get off the street. Who wants to live a life where you're constantly feel like you got a target on your back? And, are there other ways that we can be imaginative, creative, to helping to create policies that will actually target those that are committing the gun violence, and then finding ways to get them resources to be able to live life, and that does not include using violence as an answer to solutions for the problems that they have in their life. So I think the problem we have is that, and what I've seen as of late, for the most part in the city of Philadelphia, is that we keep trying to do the same things that we know don't work, right? I mean, they're good picture-taking actions. We do big gun buybacks because that's good for the politicians to do that, to stand there, all these guns and ammunitions get off the street. That's great. That's a good picture. But it's not what's necessary for us to be able to really address this issue in a deeper way. It's more than a gun buyback. It's more than an intervention, because you do an intervention and you still leave people in a state of hopelessness, they'll get back to this again. So we've got to find new ways to be able to address these issues. So, anyway.
And also, don't they do the gun buybacks? Shouldn't that be an ongoing thing? It seems like so. It's rolled out like once every couple of years. They do it over the course of a couple of weeks or something.
Well, everybody's doing it now. All the council people are having separate ones in their districts to do
Okay, so it's an ongoing thing that they're doing.
Well, it's ongoing now. They haven't done it in years, and now they're coming back to it again. It's cool. It gets old guns off the street, but it's not the solution. Right? It's just not the solution. It's a small piece of a much bigger issue, and gun violence isn't really about guns. And I think that's part of what we have a problem with. It's not about guns. It's bigger than that.
It's a healthcare crisis.
Right. It's a mental health crisis. It is an economic crisis. It is a hopelessness crisis. And until we're prepared to address all three, we're never going to solve this problem. So anyway, Troy's telling us we got to take a break. So we are. You want to go ahead?
Well, I just want to say on the other side of the break, I mean, we continue this conversation about gun violence, but I really would like to talk about the Chauvin murder trial, because it's been quite an interesting set of developments in the last couple of days in terms of the witnesses that they've had for the prosecution, and how they're dismantling the defense's case even before they get to make their case. So I would like to talk about that on the other side. If you have thoughts about that and you're listening, please join us in the conversation. You're listening to Solutions on Word. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update on Word Radio.
Watch for an accident on 130 in Delran, New Jersey, northbound side approaching South Chester Avenue. The two right lanes are blocked, and we've got delays from Taylor's Lane. Schuylkill eastbound slows down from Gulf Mills all the way to Belmont Avenue. Then again, the Boulevard to the Vine. Westbound backs up Boulevard to Belmont. 95 northbound heavy, Betsy Ross Bridge to Bridge Street. The Vine is backing up the entire length in both directions. Boulevard northbound heavy, Schuylkill to Broad Street. 422, we've got construction now between Oaks and Trooper Road. The left lane's blocked. That is really jammed. 42 south backs up right around Creek Road at 55 northbound jams Deptford to the 42 freeway. Report brought to you by ExpressPros.com. Express Employment Professionals matches people with the right skills with the right jobs from the production floor to the front office. To find the right person for your job, you can't beat Express's incredible local support. Visit ExpressPros.com to find a location near you. And for more traffic information, log on to SigAlert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
The Germantown Friends School mission begins with a commitment to community and to the belief that academic achievement is in itself not enough. Inspired by Quaker values, GFS encourages students in preschool through grade 12 to see the world as theirs to experience, to understand, to create, and to change. Learn more about the GFS academic, arts, and athletics programs at their upcoming virtual open house, Friday, April 16th, 9 a.m. Register now at germantownfriends.org/admissions.
The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and ComfortTech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
Spring forward with premium nutrition meals. Enjoy a variety of new exciting entrees along with rewards and referrals program that pays you to eat and tell. As always, everything is chef crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered to your door. Just visit premiumnutritionmeals.com, where listeners get $10 off 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
You're listening to Solutions exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions on Word. This is Amadi Braxton along with Bishop Dwayne Royster.
Yo.
And we were talking about the recent measures, executive orders that the Biden administration unveiled. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday. It was Thursday.
Yeah, yesterday. The other thing is that he is proposing as the new head of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms division of, I believe that's a division of the Justice Department, David Chipman, who is a gun control advocate who has been very deeply involved in trying to work against out-of-control gun violence in this country. And has been, he's been working on this issue for a long time. So I think that's really also an interesting pick.
He's a gun owner too, though. I think a lot of people are missing that. He also owns his own guns.
Yeah, he is a gun owner. But I think there are a lot of gun owners who
want sensible
gun
laws.
control. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the things he said, I was reading in an article, he basically said that the Bureau does not have, it's not equipped to effectively deal with this issue. Mm-hmm. It's really not. So hopefully he can come in and make some change there if he is allowed to get through, because I think he has a Senate confirmation, correct?
For ATF, yes, he will have to get confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
So,
they're questioning whether he would because the Republicans will fight against him. The NRA and the other gun lobby parts of it, because the NRA is kind of in shambles right now, but the other gun lobby movement will try to fight against him getting through the Senate.
yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, it's also ridiculous, and I shouldn't even have to say this, but the Second Amendment also talks about a well-regulated militia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guns are supposed to be well-regulated, not out of control like they are now. I mean, I don't believe in guns myself, period, but anyway, that's a whole other story. But I just think that, you know, we're living in this time where you have a Republican Party that is so corrupted that even, you know, one of the things that Biden has been saying in all of the things he's been rolling out, when the Republicans complain or when Mitch McConnell, the Republican minority leader in the Senate, complains or tries to push back, Biden's saying, and I heard him say this the other day, I think related to the infrastructure, the huge infrastructure thing they're trying to roll out, the $2 trillion, or was it $2 trillion? His next big package. He leaned into the mic and basically said, this is bipartisan. I have the support of Republican voters. So basically, we're in a situation where the party itself is completely disconnected from even its own Republican voters.
Yeah. Well, that's because they're still kissing the ring of Donald Trump. And they're trying to create the white Republican Party and, you know, the white supremacist Republican Party, and trying to maintain that instead of, you know, listening to their constituents. And the thing about it is their constituents are not going to make this an issue that they're going to vote about, so they don't care. Like, they're not going to care that, you know, my congressperson, there's no Republican out there that's going to be like, I am not going to vote you back in office because you didn't handle gun control. And so they're not worried about it. They're not sweating it. And so they're going to continue to pander to the people that are writing checks to them and putting big money in their PACs, their political action committee accounts, instead of listening to constituents that actually vote them in office, because they know this is not a wedge issue for them, that they have to be right on with their constituents to get reelected. It's not a big enough issue for them. It's just not, you know, they're like, nobody's going to vote me out because I decide to uphold the Second Amendment, or what they perceive to be upholding the Second Amendment.
You know, they are hemorrhaging. Republicans are leaving the Republican Party.
Yeah, but it's not over this.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is in terms of their being beholden to kissing the ring of Trumpkin in chief, and the way they have become quite corrupted in this kind of new level of corruptedness. There's a lot of, you know, there was some survey just came out yesterday talking about 49% of adults are registered Democrat, and 40 now are Republican. The level has dropped. So anyway,
but the independents are going up. That's what it is. So
independents are going up, but a lot of them are aligning with the Democrats. So look, let's go to Rick in Germany. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. How are you?
I've got a question for either one of you who wants to answer. I think the gun violence in Philadelphia would slow down if Philadelphia ever got the money to repair its public school system. Do you think any of that money coming from Congress and Joe Biden is going to make its way to Philadelphia's public school system?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually money coming from the American Rescue Plan. There's like $1 billion coming to the Philadelphia school system directly. And then Governor Wolf has proposed a $1.3 billion increase to the basic education fund in the state of Pennsylvania. and putting the money through the 100% of the money through the fair funding formula, which would add a few $100 million more to the Philadelphia public school system budget. So at least for this year, I can't speak for what happens the next couple of years, but for this couple of years, yeah, we're going to see this. As a matter of fact, there was an article out in the Inquirer today that was talking about a robust plan that the Philadelphia school system is putting in place to try to help kids catch up from the amount of time that they've been out of school, a strong summer school program that's actually going to try to help them get caught up by the time they get to September and start their next calendar year, or school year. So I think that's a piece of this. But the people that are actually doing the shooting right now and will continue to do it are not in public schools anymore. They're out. So we need to, that's a piece to prevent the future folk, and that's good quality education that actually creates a pathway for success and opportunity, entrepreneurship, careers, trades for folk that are in the school right now. We need all of that to try to stem the tide over the next few years. But there's other things that we have to do for the people that are actually doing the shooting right now, which is something totally different.
Well, and I also just want to say, I mean, schools are supposed to be a place where, or should be a place where children feel safe, and children have their humanity respected and can feel a sense of dignity and connection. And I think so many young people over the past year haven't had that, whether they had it in the first place when they were in person in school, but certainly not being in person has impacted that greatly. So, but I think as we get an influx of money into the schools, we can't just be doing what we did before in terms of the education system. We actually have to center caring, humanity. I think we should have mindfulness and meditation practices in schools. I think we should do a lot more in terms of the social emotional part of learning and the, mental health aspects of care and learning, and teaching young people critical thinking skills and how to negotiate the challenges at home, and all of those kinds of things have to be deeply embedded in the culture and structure of schools in order to deal with these issues and like you said, Bishop, prevent this from continuing as a problem. But that sense of despair and hopelessness and lack of dignity and all of those kinds of things impacts those who are out of school and are engaging in this kind of violent activity. The lack of access to jobs, a sense of self-worth, all of those things are what need to be addressed. And I think, what the DA announced a few weeks back about calling for $100 million investment in, a private-public partnership to invest $100 million to deal with the issue of gun violence, that he was talking about investing in community programs, investing in all of the different ways that can build up young people and allow them other avenues and outlets aside from violent acting out, in addition to trying to stop the influx of guns.
Yeah, I mean, $100 million is not enough to be able to address this, but it's a start. And I think it's a down payment on the kind of investment that's necessary to be able to, put all this together.
It would go a long way. $100 million would go a long way.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. So if we really want to prevent gun violence, every time somebody is shot and killed in this city, it costs the city of Philadelphia somewhere between $1 to $2 million, right? So whether it's the police activity, the investigation, the district attorney's office, the judicial system, when it's public defenders, right? So that's all one cost. Then the person that gets shot, and it's generally the case, they don't have health insurance. So they again go to a local hospital, right? So they're going to Temple, they're going to Penn, they're going to Jefferson, right? So then there's hospital costs on top of that. And then there is the cost that it has impact on in terms of families, right? So let's just say that every time somebody is murdered in the city of Philadelphia, it costs us $1 million. That costs the city $1 million. So if we want to prevent, we could just take a look at last year, 499 murders. That's $500 million of money that the city of Philadelphia has spent on addressing on the after effects of gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. And this is not including shootings where people don't die because our hospitals have gotten such great skill as level 1 trauma centers that they're now saving people that would normally otherwise die from gunshot wounds. So shout out to all the level 1 trauma centers that are here in the city of Philadelphia. But that's $500 million. Now, what if we said, if we're really serious about ending gun violence, then we're going to find a way to invest $500 million into a big plan to be able to end gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. We're already spending the money, so we're just pulling it out of other places. So let's just say we're going to take that $500 million and we're going to reduce gun violence, we're going to reduce murders, we're going to invest in people and communities, and we're going to do the hard work of getting out in the street. We're going to do the hard work of creating opportunities. We're going to do the hard work of education to be able to reduce gun violence. That's what we need at this moment. So, like I said, $100 million. So we're going to stop 100 murders. I mean, that's good. We need to do that for those families. There will be 100 less families that are grieving in the city. But what about the other 400? I mean, right now we're on target to have 600 murders this year. So that's $600 million and more, because actually it's not just $1 million, it's $1 million plus.
But I don't think it's a one-to-one exchange in terms of the cost of the life lost and all of the associated costs with that, the financial costs, let alone we haven't even touched upon the emotional trauma, community costs, right, to the family, to the neighborhood where it happens, everything, the intergenerational trauma, all of that. Maybe that's incalculable, probably, right? But in terms of what you invest in prevention, it's so much less expensive, right? Like your dollar can go a lot further in terms of investing in the kinds of programs that would help rebuild communities. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, I think, right? I think that's what you're referring to, Bishop, because it's like, I talked about this a couple of times. I feel like I've been talking about this every week since I moderated the panel on debt in the city. But the same census tracts, the same neighborhoods where you have highest rates of COVID, highest rates of poverty, highest rates of indebtedness, highest rates of healthcare issues and inequality. These are all the neighborhoods where we need serious, I would say, over-investment. And I say over, not because it's too much, but just like we have to make up for the decades-long disinvestment in these communities to help turn this around, so
that's what I'm saying. $100 million is down payment, but what we really need is that $500 million, $1 billion of investment in those communities to be able to turn this thing around, because it's not
like
just
a Marshall Plan investment.
Yeah. I mean, I know there are folk out there talking about a Marshall Plan investment, but they haven't put the meat to the bones. You can't just talk about $100 million. What's the meat on the bones? What's the programs? What's the ways that you're going to address this? How are you doing interventions in the community? How are you doing long-range planning, right? Because, it's like you can do an intervention program now, but if you don't maintain the support and the work. So, for example, there was a ceasefire program here in Philadelphia years ago that was happening. Gun violence program went down. It got defunded. Gun violence goes back up. So it's not that you can just do a one-off thing and think that you're going to, do this. You have to be willing to make a long-term, significant investment for years, decades, to be able to reduce gun violence. You can't just be like, oh, the numbers are down. We're great. We don't need to fund this anymore. I mean, part of it, the Trump administration came in because it was $5 million that came in from the Department of Justice during the Obama administration that helped with that. It was not renewed during the Trump administration. So there was total disinvestment in that. And then there's not resources for those programs to continue going. So it was working to a large extent in Philadelphia, but we were also on an economic climb at the same time too. We're now going to be on an economic decline coming out of COVID. It's going to take a while for the economic conditions of many of our citizens to catch up for a while, and we need to be able to plan for a 20-year program, not one that's going to last us a couple of years. Yeah, you need half a generation, right? It's going to take that long. It's going to take that long to be able to do that work. Anyway, all right. Well, we're up on our break. Time is flying.
So keep the calls coming. You have to read a live feed?
No,
live read, I mean?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. So join the conversation on the other side of this break at 215-634-8065 or 866-361-0900, where we will hopefully be talking about the Derek Chauvin murder trial, because that's what I wanted to talk about. You're listening to Solutions on WURD. We'll be right back.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. A second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
A Part of Me boutique, located 3834 Lancaster Avenue, sells men's and women's clothing, shoes, and beautiful accessories. Items can be ordered if not in the store. Check out our lovely one-of-a-kind chairs with reupholstered African fabric. A Part of Me is open Wednesday through Saturday from 11:30 to 6 p.m. You can expect friendly, professional service and unique finds. A Part of Me boutique, located 3834 Lancaster Avenue, sells men's and women's clothing, shoes, and beautiful accessories. Items can be ordered if not in the store. Check out our lovely one-of-a-kind chairs with reupholstered African fabric. A Part of Me is open Wednesday through Saturday from 11:30 to 6 p.m. You can expect friendly, professional service and unique finds.
Hey folks, WURD members are invited to tune in every second Tuesday of the month with me, Nick, for a chance to win a book bundle of the newest releases from Kensington Publishing's culturally oriented Dafina imprint.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions on WURD. This is Amadi Braxton along with Bishop Dwayne Royster.
Hello.
And we were talking about what kind of investment it would require to turn around the decades of violence, effects of the drug war, effects of mass incarceration on our communities, effects of decades-long disinvestment, upgrading our schools to be the kinds of healthy, caring, centered places that we need them to be. And so we invite you to be in that conversation with us. And also we want to get to, or I want to get to the Derek Chauvin murder trial and what has happened there in the last couple of days, because I think it's been really interesting to see what's happened and to hear about the way that these cases are looked at. So, but let's first go to Brenda in South Philly.
Hey.
Hi, what's on your mind?
Well, you know what? I do want to talk about the George Floyd murder trial. But you know what? I wanted to comment on, I found it to be extremely educational, but the piece that I wanted to highlight is like today I went to go see my lawyer who's helping me to buy my grandmother's house. And I was telling the paralegals that the system is stacked against poor and working people. And when you look at the prosecution, the team of lawyers and investigators they have that's arguing their case, and then when you look at the defense, okay, and now in his case, from what I read at the newspaper, he has access to $1 million, even though we only see one lawyer for the defense, that there's a team of lawyers behind helping the lead defense lawyer. I was just putting myself in the shoes. What if the defendant was an African American? Okay. And the case, and the state is prosecuting a case against the African American. And I mean, if the African American is not O.J. Simpson, a working person, the way the system is created, it's stacked against you. Are you following my point?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that that is often the case. with people who find themselves in a criminal defense trial, I mean, who are defendants in a criminal trial, who, if you don't have money, you don't have access to a lot of money, you get a less quality defense.
Yeah. And
which,
the other
which I believe is supposed to be unconstitutional. But
Oh,
I mean, this is you're supposed to have adequate defense, and it's supposed to be provided for if you cannot provide for it yourself. For example, if you can't find your own lawyer, you are supposed to, have access to one that is assigned to you, right? That is what the Defenders Association does. They provide defense counsel for people who can't afford to hire their own. But oftentimes those defenders are overburdened with many, many, many cases because there are many, many, many people who don't have enough money, and they do not have adequate resources. I don't think the Defenders Association is adequately resourced and funded to actually provide the kind of defense that would be optimum in all cases, although I think they try to do a good job with what they have. But this is a classic problem.
I know, and you know what? Here's the other point, then after that I'll let you talk. The jury system of 12 people, all you need is one of that 12 to accept the defense's argument that it was his overall health or his drug use that led to his death. Anyway, I find that jury system problematic, okay? And that you can have one person who can cause there to be a mistrial, or either one person who can say, no, I want to go in the other direction. And the way in this country that we so embrace police and white privilege and white power, I don't know. I pray they find him guilty. But when I look at that jury system and those 12 people from those diverse backgrounds, and if some of them are cop lovers, and if some of them so don't value black life, I mean, do you understand my point?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Bishop.
No, I was going to say, I mean, that was the whole thing about the jury selection, right? They're trying to find somebody, the defense and the prosecution are trying to find jurors that are going to line up with their point of view. So, the prosecution wants 12 people that they think are going to convict, and the defense is looking for at least one or two that they are pretty confident aren't going to convict, because then that means that the case, either gets held over, it can be appealed, it can be tried over again. But if, you're always looking for that one person that's going to line up, and we should know there are 9 white jurors on this particular case, right? So there's 12. They picked 15 jurors for this particular case. They have a couple alternates that are in there that are still sitting in. There was one alternate they released on day 1 from continuing to serve, but they have alternates on there as well. And we should also note that the black folk that are on the trial, at least half of them are actually folk who are immigrants, black immigrants to the country. So, it's a very interesting dynamic about the way they went and pulled this pool of folk to sit on this particular jury trial. Now, they did have some of the white jurors that are on the trial have said that they actually like Black Lives Matter, and they agree with where that movement is. Not all of them said that, though. So, like you said, you only need one. One can jam the whole thing up and basically, declare that he's innocent of any one of the charges, or they can find him guilty of one of the charges and not other charges. So it's all there together.
Yeah, I mean, and that, part of their work as a team of jurors is to persuade each other, right, and to convince each other of one to go one way or the other. If there's one holdout, sometimes they can be persuaded by the others. Sometimes they can't be. But I think, Brenda, have you watched any of the trial itself?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what? This should be required. I mean, the fact of the just like today, the medical examiner Yeah. Oh, it's been, I almost think everybody in America should have a law degree after you graduate high school, because you need to be aware of the laws in this country and then really just how to defend yourself. And, yeah, I've been watching it, and that daggone defense wants to put George Floyd on trial as has assassinated his character, and but that's his view. But you know the other piece that is also about this system, that how can you have 4 men sit on another human being for close to 10 minutes? You know, I mean, you know, that just said to me that they didn't view George Floyd as a person. And then, did you see the videotape when the officer approached the car and he had the gun out and he was using the profanity, and how he just pulled George Floyd out the car? Did you see that? Yeah. I mean, you know, we just have a system that does not value our life, and everybody needs to have seen that, how those 4 men cheated George Floyd, you know, and what does that say? Well, we already know what it says about America, you know, because unfortunately, before George Floyd, we have so many others that have not even gotten a jury trial. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, yeah, it's very, very, definitely educational. I'm learning more about the medical field that I didn't think I definitely didn't know, and the importance of somebody just studying breathing. Wasn't that something? Somebody just concentrate on the significance of breathing and your overall health condition, the condition of your heart, and how blood pressure can also affect the size of your heart. But anyway, I'm going to let you, because I know other people want to get in here, but keep talking, because I'm listening, okay?
All right. Thank you, Brenda. We appreciate you and your thoughtfulness. I mean, yes, I mean, as somebody with a lung disease, it was fascinating to watch the pulmonologist from Ireland yesterday, who just powerfully explained how they killed George Floyd and how everything that the defense is trying to say that could have been other causes of death. No, it was lack of oxygen is what led to his death. We all could see that with our own eyes, right, watching the video. But to have him explain it in such a clear, methodical way was very, very powerful. And I don't know how, you know, I was watching some of the commentary afterwards, and some of the legal commentators were saying he is the perfect kind of witness because his style of explaining in detail and breaking complicated medical processes down into layman's terms, and the way he went about it. They reported that many of the jurors, as he was instructing what they could do to feel different parts, the back of their head and different parts of in between the shoulders, the base of the back of the head. Many of them were doing that. You could see in the courtroom that they were actually touching where he was showing them to touch. And that's the kind of thing that will stick with you as a juror. Like that,
You'll take that into
when you have to think back to all of the witnesses that you heard, and it's tons and tons of information, and yes, you have the court notation and all of the records to review and refer to, but certain people are going to stick out in your mind. And I'm glad he was one of them. I'm glad he is a person that's going to stick out in their mind, because he was just so powerful. So, yeah, and I was also just fascinated by what he was saying as, again, somebody with a lung disease and who deals with a pulmonologist myself.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, I think, you know, honestly, this trial, at least at this point, this guy should be brought up. He should get at least second-degree murder. Honestly, from after some of the testimony, I think it should be first-degree murder, because it was a certain point to which they pointed out he was trained and understood what happens after 90 seconds cutting people's air off, that, you know, they're dead, and that he continued to stay on him even for up to 3 minutes after they knew that George Floyd had essentially passed out. I think the pulmonologist pointed that out too, in terms of his respirations, that he was basically dead, not resisting anymore. And so that was a premeditated, you know, that was at some point, Chauvin made a decision, I'm going to kill this guy. He made a premeditated decision, I'm going to kill him. It wasn't in the heat of the moment. It was like some point, he could have got off him at any point. But at some point, he decided, I'm just going to stay here until this ends, because I think, you know, I'm just going to get away with this. And, you know, what's intriguing about the Minneapolis Police Department, so some of you don't remember, there was actually a police-involved shooting a couple of years ago. 2 young officers that were involved in the shooting. One of them was an officer of color. I can't remember if he was Asian or whether he was black or Latinx. But anyway, he's the only one that has actually ever been held accountable by the Minneapolis Police Department for shooting because he shot a white woman. She came running up to the police car out of the alley and basically scared the cops. And she wound up getting shot as a result of that and killed. And he was fired and actually found guilty of use of excessive force and manslaughter, and he was held accountable. But the cop who shot Philando Castile, not held accountable. You know, the other shootings that occurred there, not held accountable. They all got off. And so I think that there's also this piece that we need to really take a look at, is that the person of color, the BIPOC, the black, indigenous person of color, people of color officer was held accountable. But none of the white officers that have shot any person of color, any black person, any Latinx person in Minneapolis, has been held accountable. I think we need to really, really take a hard look at that and ask the question, what's up with that in Minneapolis?
And, you know, and I think we have, you know, as I was looking at the parade of expert witnesses, you know, the person from the LAPD who is a technical expert in this kind of training and, you know, de-escalation, use of force, de-escalation training, and there was another, the guy who investigated another person of color from Minneapolis. I mean, there have been a number of different witnesses who are experts in what they do, but the whole time I was watching them testify, I was thinking, does the jury believe these experts because they're people of color? What's the implicit bias that they have? Are they actually going to believe what these experts are saying? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's real. That's very real.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of the problem.
So I see we have Maurice in Southwest.
Now, Maurice, you got to be quick because we're going to have to go to break shortly.
You want me to hold on?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, but I just understand everybody's into the trial. I'm into the trial too, but I'm not going to look at it because I don't need no more pain. I just want to know, what are we going to do once the trial is over, whether it's a yay or a nay? I think we should act the same way. And I don't mean by rioting. I mean we should make him hurt in the pocket. If he wins the trial, let's not just celebrate and forget everything. Let's still hold strong action against the Minnesota police. And the same thing, if the guy gets off, we always get a win and then we forget about everything. Now let me ask you two a question. If you're walking down the street and the people across the street are arguing, or you see an argument inside your house, who are you going to go to first?
I'm trying to think back what I've done in times past. I mean, a couple of times I've broken up fights. But I'm also 6'3" and a half.
I'm not talking about in your own household. I'm talking about one is across the street and one is in your own household at the same time.
Well, 2 arguments happening?
Hey, they're not fighting, they're just arguing. Which house you going to go to first?
Right, they're just arguing, and they're not. It's not physical. You know, you let them do what they got to do, work it out.
Oh, you going to go to your house or that house? You're not answering the question.
Well, I'm going to go to mine.
I don't understand the question.
The question is, if you're walking down the street and you see an argument on your block, and one is across the street and one is at your house, which house are you going to go to first?
You're going to go to your house. You're going to figure out what's going on.
Okay, this is all I'm trying to say is, We worry about so much stuff that's happening outside the city, like this city is not in crisis. You just seen the commissioner and the mayor turn law enforcement to outside entities, and nobody's even reacting to that. We're actually doing a 94 crime bill right here in front of us, where we're going to have outside entities policing our city.
What are you talking about?
Have thrown their hands up and said they can't do nothing. They don't know what to do. That's what that press conference was for. And I'm so worried that innocent black people, because we know we got criminals here, but innocent black people are going to be bothered and harassed when they're just going to work or walking down this street, because they're all going to be lumped together, and nobody's even talking about it. And the last thing, because I don't want to take up too much time like you let the other lady do, is Michelle, the sheriff has done put our city for sale, and nobody's even reacting to that. City council pretended like they upset, but that was all in the plan together to sell out our properties that black people own. That's only ones that's up really on sheriff's sale is black properties to outside entities from Maryland and New York, because Philadelphia is the land of honey. Property is cheap, and most people don't even understand the system when they actually go to the building. So doing it over the internet is going to make it worse. So I'd like to hear your two opinion on that.
Well, let's do this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we got to go to break because we're over time. Thanks, Maurice, for giving us a call, and we'll deal with some of these issues when we come back. You're listening to Solutions on Word with Amadi Braxton and Dwayne Royster. We'll be right back.
COVID vaccines are here, and black physicians and scientists helped to develop them. So I feel good about getting the vaccine. And with new forms of the virus now spreading, I know we need to keep up everything we're already doing. Masking up, keeping that 6-foot distance, and avoiding crowds. COVID's been doubly tough on us, so let's double down to take it down. We can do this. Learn more about getting the vaccine and slowing the spread at cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls. They are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But you know, it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
Spring forward with premium nutrition meals. Enjoy a variety of new exciting entrees along with rewards and referrals program that pays you to eat and tell. As always, everything is chef crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered to your door. Just visit premiumnutritionmeals.com, where listeners get $10 off 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions on Word. This is Dwayne Royster along with Amadi Braxton. We messed that whole thing up tonight. That's all right.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
That's all right. Do you want to respond to Maurice and share your thoughts?
Well, why don't you? I mean, you know, I think what I didn't quite get the first point he was making, but why don't you talk about that? Because I think that's related to what Maurice said that they were going to be outsourcing.
So, I mean, part of it was, there was a press conference earlier today, so there's going to be a plan with this Philadelphia City Police Department, and they're going to try to, when they're doing gun charges, they're going to try to take it to the federal. So the Department of Justice, they're going to try to go to federal cases as well. I mean, I have a personal opinion about this. Part of this, I think, is really trying to sidestep District Attorney Krasner, because people don't think that he's doing enough around gun violence. I think he's trying to find alternate solutions in some circumstances. And, in moments like this, people want, a law and order type environment. Actually, they don't want a law and order type environment. They just want a law and order type environment around this one issue. And so the police department is going to work in partnership with the Department of Justice to bring federal charges to people around gun issues, gun possession, And it's not just around shootings. It's around, like, illegal possession of guns, things of that nature, not just to bring local charges, but to bring federal charges. So that's really what that's all about. But in my opinion, this is Dwayne Royster's opinion, it's a hit job on Larry Krasner, and that's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. Other people might disagree with me on that. I'm just looking behind like the timing of all this and what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes. Yeah, I would probably have to agree with you based on how you described it. I think the other issue Maurice was talking about is the fact that the sheriff sales are going to be going online because of, the COVID situation, and they haven't been having the sales because they had stopped, I think they had stopped it or put it on hold during COVID. And they're supposed to start, I guess they started earlier this week, the virtual sale process.
Okay.
And people are raising concerns that this will lead to increased real estate speculation, which I think is probably correct. And, I think that we're in this moment where there are so many people facing foreclosure, facing, people who are renters are facing eviction because people are in dire straits financially right now due to the pandemic. And so to now kind of fast track online sales process for these homes that are basically on sheriff sale because people can't afford to keep up with mortgage payments, right? That is not appropriate, and it unduly impacts certain communities, people who are low wealth. Black people, of course, can fall within that category. But it's like, you are doing this in a moment where people are facing economic hardship, and you're going to make it even more difficult for them, and you're going to resume these sales when we should actually be trying to help people retain their homes. So I think I would agree with that. I know Helen Gim has come out criticizing this.
So I would agree with that for those that are living in their homes, that there's got to be a better solution. But there are a lot of homes in Philadelphia, and I did a study about this, oh my God, almost 20 years ago now, when when Mayor John Street was in office, and there were like 25,000 abandoned homes in the city of Philadelphia, and a lot of those homes were behind on taxes. We weren't doing anything to initiate that, and it was actually destabilizing neighborhoods. And so I'm 100% behind no sheriff sale for people that are living in the homes and are struggling right now during COVID. But there are a lot of homes that, like inherited homes and things like that, that people just are not following up on in the neighborhood. I remember when I was pastoring Living Water, and we were actually in West Kensington. We were literally on Germantown Avenue, right near between Diamond and Norris. And there were a couple of properties that we wanted to get in the neighborhood because we were, looking at expanding the ministry footprint and doing more work in the area. And we could not find the houses. There were properties that were behind on taxes, but we could not find the owners. And the city, was having trouble trying to find the owners too. And so there was a whole process to go through to be able to get the properties. But they hadn't been able to find the owners for like 10 years. And so there's a problem when you have, for such a long period of time, these homes that are out there that are destabilizing communities, that need to be addressed, need to be sold. Somebody needs to do something with them so that they're not continuing to cause the community to fall apart and become devalued. So I hear that. I'm all for, like, no sheriff sales, no foreclosures, for folk that are living in homes. But for those that they have a property they're not using, they're just sitting there, they've inherited it, they don't really feel like taking the time and energy to even deal with it, then yes, we should sell those homes and try to find folk. And I would prefer that they would try to find families to put in those homes, as opposed to trying to sell them to people who are going to take them, develop them. I saw a house the other day on my brother's block, and he lives in East Mount Airy. It's a small house. It was a twin. And they were trying to sell it for $380,000. And I was like, that's ridiculous for that neighborhood. Absolutely ridiculous. And so I I'm sick of people coming in and basically pimping our communities. They buy houses dirt cheap, sell them really high, and then take the money out of the community and are not investing it back in the community, not spending money with businesses in the community. So I have a problem with that. But for families and others, if we're going to take those homes, then we should be, prioritizing getting them into the hands of families that are going to take care of their homes. They're going to try to raise their families there and try to build community.
Well, I wonder if they should do an analysis of, I think they say currently there's 350 foreclosed or tax delinquent properties that are slated to be sold this April.
The sheriff's sale happens like twice a week, so that might just be current.
They're saying what's current that are slated to be sold in April, and so how do you determine which of those are ones that we should try to support families to keep? And it's not just families living in the homes. I mean, some people are trying to keep these as investments for their future, and maybe they're not inhabited right now, but they're struggling to do that because of the financial situation we're in. I mean, and I'll just say,
I don't know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just quickly, hearkening back to John Street's era, the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative, to me, was a wholesale bonanza for developers. I mean, to me, that's what it was.
That did happen.
And that actually moved people who were inhabiting their homes out of their homes. It wasn't just dealing with abandoned properties.
Yeah, so, we should talk about that. But actually, Sheriff Rochelle Bilal was listening to the program and called in. So welcome, Sheriff Bilal. Thank you for giving us a call here on Solutions. How are you today?
Okay, and yourself, Pastor, and your guest? How are y'all?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Thanks for giving us a call. So you heard Maurice's call about what was going on with the sheriff's sale, thank you for calling to address that.
First of all, I like Maurice because he always do a lot of talking, but I ain't never seen him anywhere doing anything specific. But just so that we don't give out a lot of misinformation,
sure.
A lot of these sales that are going up now are pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of things in place that deal with evictions and foreclosures and those type of things. When it gets to the sheriff's office, it's basically a court order. And it takes from 2 to 3, we even got 6 years of people that's been going through the process. Because there's a process. You just don't not pay your mortgage and then it goes to sheriff's sale. There is a process. There are negotiations, there are programs. You have to exhaust all your avenue, and you still have some, even when it gets to the sheriff's sale. So these are not pandemic things. They haven't went through the process yet.
Mm-hmm.
And let's really get to the real point of this. If you're talking about throwing people out of their houses, let's not use the Trumpism type thing, the fear factor. There is a moratorium on eviction.
Right.
And that still is a process. You just can't go to somebody's house, I bought it, and you out. You can't do that. Because even if you are mortgage foreclosure, whatever taxes, you have to go through a process to have somebody removed from any property. So for everybody to go through the fear factor, they're going to be, no, that's not. What we have been doing, and it's really not our job to do, but I ran on it and I'm taking it on, is that we get as much information, and my constituent service department there has got all the information locally, statewide, and federally on how people can save their home.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they don't know and they look everywhere else and they call anybody else that they're trying to get help from, we have all that information. Basically, you could call my constituent service at the sheriff's office, and if they are in a situation, they can basically tell them where they need to go. You can say you can take people to the water, but you can't force them to drink.
Right.
And the information we have been giving out all during the pandemic, because I've still been working. I have not been working from home. I've been in the office. My deputies have been working. and we had put them on rotating because it was a shutdown. But we've been out here working. And so when tax liens, we don't do anything with. And here's the other thing. The sheriff's house has nothing to do with foreclosures. We have nothing to do with the tax lien sales or tax sales. The city and the law department deals with the tax sales and the tax lien sales. The mortgage company deals with that. We don't know what properties is going up for sale. We don't know who is foreclosed on. We don't know none of that. We get a court order that the judge says that this property has to go up for sale because it has went through all the process. Okay, could it took 2 years? Could it took 3 years? One person was in the property for 6 years. And so, you know, if you're trying to make it the sheriff is the bad person, this sheriff has been in prehistorically history as far as long time going through this process. We are just trying to make it a little bit different. We're trying to have people know what to do. We also partner with Register of Wills so people would know that they really need to get a will so that they cannot, so they can be generation wealth. That, you know, they can't take your grandma home, and we partner with her so that people would know these things. So our thing is you can't come and make the sheriff look bad because we only doing our job. But in the process of doing our job, we're trying to let everybody know all the programs that are out there to save that. And nobody's being thrown out. There's a moratorium. You can't do that. And that still is a process that has to go on.
Yeah, Sheriff, if I remember correctly, during the Obama administration, I realize this was a while ago, but during the Obama administration, during the foreclosure crisis, if I was remembered correctly, the Philadelphia Sheriff Department had a mandatory negotiation between the homeowner and the mortgage company before they were allowed to continue foreclosing. And I would imagine that programs like that still exist to this day.
It still exists to this day because if you get into that program, and it's a program that has the judge there, the banks and mortgage companies there, and counseling, housing counseling is there. And once you get into that program, as you go through the process to negotiate how you can save your home and how you can adjust your payments or what it is that you come to an agreement with, then it's a stay on your property even going up.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, it could be listed, but it's not going anywhere because there's a stay on there.
That's correct. And even doing the sheriff sale, if you have an attorney or if you get to community legal services, see, virtually all the protections stay in place. There's nothing missing here. That if they can stay it before, stay it during, and which some people have done, we get the information from the judge or court order saying that to stay the property because they're in negotiation or they file bankruptcy, that property is immediately pulled. And if you get it the day of and you don't get it to us the next day, the property still stays. And so those are the things that we put in place. No, really, the protections has always been there. Our bid for assets, which is the one that runs it, basically all those protections stay in place because virtual is built to mirror what the sheriff's office did in person. It's just that it's not at a venue. You don't have all that intimidating factors. You don't have the biases. You don't have the favoritism. You have basically everybody on the even playing field.
If they have internet access.
Well, even if they don't have internet access, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
If you still want to bid, there is, all you have to do is we give you a mailing package. You can go on our website, you can go on Bid for Assets, or you can call our office and say, I don't have internet access, but I would like to bid. They'll send you out a mail-in bid package that you can basically fill out and send back in, and you can bid also.
Let me ask you another question that came up that I think in the article that I read about this, people were raising concerns about. Who is the average buyer? Have you tracked over time, like who the average buyer is of these properties? Like, are they out-of-state speculator type people, developers? Are they individuals? Do you have a sense of the range of, who the majority of these purchases are going to?
let me just say this. The in-person sale had the speculators, the developers, basically at in-person. This is a public sale. You cannot discriminate. But as we get into this, we have put some matrix in place to be able to determine who is doing what. What we know from our first sale, out of all of them, I think it was about 78 people who had registered was for people from Philadelphia. And you may have a New York and a New Jersey and a Delaware, and I think they kind of harped on one person from California. But they were all here. And what we were getting from citizens of this city, basically saying, like, I have never been able to get down here. I got a lot next to my home. I've been wanting to buy it, but I can't get to the in-person sale. Thank you. Now I can bid for this lot that's right next to my home because I want to expand my business. So, you know, you have 6 in one hand and 6 in the other. You got those that you can please and those that you would never please.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what I was saying earlier years ago when Living Water Church was the 2000 block of Germantown Avenue. There were lots next to us we were trying to get, and actually a house that was there as well. They were all taxes hadn't been paid in ages, and we were trying to get the property, and it wasn't even available. The sheriff's, I mean, it wasn't even in the process of being looked at, and you know, all that can really destabilize a community over a period of time. So this whole thing is always a catch-22, right? You don't want to hurt people that are really struggling, but at the same time, you don't want to hurt folk in struggling neighborhoods by leaving properties that are vacant and then can be used for nefarious purposes at the same time.
That's correct. And so these are the different matrix we're putting in place. We know that this is new. And then anything new, you got to measure how it's doing in the city that it has never been done before. And so we're going to be looking at that, looking at the buyers, who is buying. We're going to be putting all that together, analyzing it to make sure that everything is fair and equitable. We don't operate off of a bunch of rumors. We try to dispel the rumors that the sheriff's sale is kicking people out of their homes and selling it to the highest bidder. That's not what we do. We don't kick anybody out of their home. That's not our job in that aspect. Everything is done by a court order. You have the opportunity as a homeowner or as a person that owns the property, and if you're falling back on it, you have the opportunity to be in them courts just like anybody else and fight for your property. And we're making sure that information goes out to everybody, even if you're not going through it. We say take the pamphlet so that if you know somebody in your family or a friend that is maybe going through it, you can give them that information. You can help them out. Everybody plays a role in making sure people stay in their homes. Here's the thing. Nobody wants sheriff's sales. Nobody wants tax lien. So who does? But it all is a process that we have to look at, and this was going on way before me. I just got here about a year and a few months.
Right.
And so, and during the pandemic, I've been postponing these sales because there was no place safe to be able to hold it in person. And so, you know, when the court said to me, when you going to go, I said April, because we looked at all the other counties and different cities on what they were doing, because a lot of counties and cities never stopped because they was going virtual. And so that's how we got to look at this and how we can be able to do more. What people can do so you can really get clear what the process is, the protections that in it, and if you want to participate, you basically go to phillysheriff.com, and you can get information from there, or you can go to bid, BID, 4, assets.com/Philadelphia, and you can get that information. You can it doesn't cost anything to register. You can even view the sales so you can see how it goes, so you can learn it for yourself. We encourage people in this city that if you ever wanted to buy a piece of land or property, if you got something next to your house and you want to be able to, like, do a garden or have, like, places where you can park your car, the tax lien and tax sale is a place for you to come to.
Sure.
All right. Well, look, Sheriff Bilal, we appreciate you calling in and clarifying and trying to demystify the process and clarifying and setting the record straight on the process. And we realize that you're one point in a long process where there's a lot of stuff that happens before this gets to you. So we appreciate you clarifying that. We have to go to our break now. You're listening to Solutions on WURD. We'll be right back.
The Sankofa Freedom Academy Charter School is an African-centered public freedom school that is looking for experienced, certified teachers in kindergarten through 12th grade for the 2021-22 school year. These positions are full-time and come with full health, vision, dental, and retirement benefits. Salary is comparable to the School District of Philadelphia. Interested parties should send their resume and cover letter via email to careers@sfacs.us. For more information, visit sfacs.us.
Join WURD Radio for our 6th annual Jackie Robinson Day live broadcast. Thursday, April 15th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Hosted by Charles Ellison and Andrea Lawful Sanders. In celebration of Jackie Robinson, who revolutionized Major League Baseball by breaking racial barriers, this year we're taking a look at how Robinson and other black athletes have played a pivotal role in advocating for social justice. You don't want to miss it. Thursday, April 15th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. WURD Radio's special Jackie Robinson Day celebration is brought to you by Pico, Brown's Family ShopRite, and the Family Business Partners, Hers Snack Food, Amoroso's, and Dietz & Watson.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
You're listening to Solutions exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Solutions. We are in the home stretch now of the show. I'm really happy to have Sheriff Bilal on to talk about, to clarify and set the record straight about the process of sheriff sales and the shift to the online process and what that will mean for people. And it sounded like what she was saying was really that she thought it was going to provide more access to people who normally couldn't attend in-person sheriff sales. Right. And she said about 78 of the recent buyers, well, she didn't say out of how many, but 78 were from Philadelphia. So we don't know what they were doing with the properties they were buying, but they were Philadelphia-based addresses. So we shall see. I mean, you know, I'm wondering what is the average length of time that people have to try to get right with back taxes or with, you know, back mortgage payments to avoid getting into the situation where their house ends up at sheriff's sale by court order. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, it sounded like, I mean, we probably could have
like
the
2
sheriff.
to 6 years.
Yeah, we could probably have the sheriff back on to talk about that in more detail to help us understand the whole process. It was actually really intriguing to listen. I mean, I've known people that were, you know, they used to go and do property buys and sheriff sale, but, you know, there are the folk that are actually buying the lot next door to them that's empty, that they do want to have a community garden or create a little driveway so they can park their cars at the end of the day. And so, I mean, those are important pieces for community stability as well. That, you know, need to be looked at. So I would, you know, that's actually, I think, a great piece to be able to really focus on and drill down on. So that would be helpful. But I mean, like I said, I sat on the other side of this when we were trying to expand so we could do more in the community, and we couldn't get access. And it's, you know, this is 10, 15 years ago. We couldn't get access to the land that we needed because their process hadn't even been started because they could not find the homeowners. And the people that, we do know one person in particular had passed away. The property was should have been a part of an estate piece, and nobody ever came to claim it, and it just caused all kinds of problems. So, it's a whole process, and that took years. I mean, we were doing that for years, trying to get that land. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, the thing that Maurice was asking about related to I think he was trying to use this as a metaphor and make a larger point, but it made me think about what I was talking to you about before we got on the air, when he talked about if you come down your block and you see an argument outside versus an argument in your house, where do you go to first? I was thinking about the argument outside scenario because I was talking to you about the case of the Filipino woman who was stomped on and kicked in New York City, and how there were people in the apartment building. You saw video being taken of the incident from the apartment building that she was right outside of, and people did not go out and intervene or help. They even closed the door to what was happening, literally closed the front door of the building. And it just had me thinking about, what do people do to intervene in those kinds of situations? How do you intervene in a situation where you see violence occurring, and you want to stop the violence, but you don't want to then become the victim of the violence yourself. You don't want to have the perpetrator of the violence turn on to you. What do you do? Do you distract the person from what they're doing? Do you just call the police? Do you try to break up the fight yourself? You alluded to breaking up fights before. So I'm just curious how people see that kind of incident, because, I attended last night, I mentioned this to you, Asian Americans United had a teach-in about the history of anti-Asian violence in Philadelphia, which was fascinating and really useful reminder of what happens on an ongoing basis here in our own city. And, how do you intervene? And how do you intervene in a way that doesn't necessarily perpetuate criminalization, particularly if the perpetrator is a black person? Although I have to say, the guy in New York, I don't know what to do about a man who just approaches somebody randomly that they don't know and just starts stomping on them.
Right.
Oftentimes, the situations I've seen where I've tried to figure out how could I intervene safely were situations where the people clearly know each other. So I've intervened in like a domestic violence type situation that was out on the street, right, where clearly boyfriend and girlfriend situation that was getting physical. And things like that. But when it's, the guy in New York, he was, again, somebody who had murdered his mother and had served 20 years for that. And then was out on parole, I guess, and ended up attacking this woman for no apparent reason whatsoever, except by the way she looked. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the situations I've always stepped into, and I mean, police will tell you not to do that, call police. But the situations I've stepped into have always been domestic violence. Generally, a man and a woman were battling, and, usually it's really lopsided. And so I've jumped into those and stopped. As a matter of fact, I did it about a year and a half ago. I was in D.C. at a bus stop, and literally right downtown Washington, D.C., about 4 or 5 blocks from the Capitol. This couple were, man was just wailing on the woman, and all kinds of people standing around, and didn't do anything. And I jumped into the middle of it, and really kind of scared him and chased him off. It took about 45 minutes, and eventually he got in the bus and took off, and then we were able to get help for her. She needed some medical attention to be able to do it, but I had to stay there. I was working at the time and being able to do that. So. A lot going on there. So yeah, we should talk about that some more.
Yeah, and the program I was on last night, they were talking about a recent incident on a subway with 2 Asian American girls, teenagers, who were being attacked and harassed viciously. And got on the subway, and on the subway platform nor on the subway did anybody do anything. They just allowed them to continue to be harassed and violated. So we have to figure out how we can intervene in a way that stops the harm and doesn't harm us.
Well, we will continue that conversation, I'm sure, in the days and weeks to come. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out here on Solutions tonight. We deeply appreciate you. Thank you, Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, for calling in, one, for listening, and then two, calling in to help us understand exactly what's happening at the Sheriff's Department and with the Sheriff's sales. We appreciate everybody that listens to us on YouTube, Facebook, on the air, through the app, all the various means that we're able to interact. Thank you, everybody, making comments on both YouTube and Facebook that we were able to see and interact with on this evening. Thank you, Troy, for holding down the boards. Thank you, Ms. Braxton, for being here each and every week, bringing your insight, your experience, and your opinions about what it is that we ought to be doing to create solutions in our city. Stay tuned now for the NB McKee Show, which is coming up next. And listen, family, do us a favor. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.